Hello everyone, welcome to Math and Science Clinic. Today we'll discuss about molecules and its properties. So we already discussed about the atoms and its properties. So I divide the whole chapter into small and small capsule so that it will be very helpful for you to learn in a better way. So if you have not watched those videos, you can go and watch those videos first. So let's start. So a molecule in general is a group of two or more atoms that are chemically bonded together, that is tightly held together by attractive forces. A molecule can be defined as the smallest particle of element or compound that is capable of an independent existence. So all the properties of that substance. So atom of the same element or different element join together to form molecules. So what is molecule? It describes here. The molecule is the smallest particle of the element. So atom is also the smallest particle of element, but atom may or may not be independently existent. But in case of the molecule, it is always present independently. Suppose in case of oxygen molecule composed of two atoms of oxygen. So it is always independently existent. Same in case of the hydrogen. All the molecules are present independently, and the smallest particle of the element which can be independently presented independently. So atom may or may not be independently existed. For example, if we take the example of helium, it is present independently. But if we take oxygen atom, it is not independently present because it has to be combined with other atom to form the molecule of oxygen so that it will independent. So molecule can be of the two types. The molecule of the same element, suppose we take the example of hydrogen and hydrogen. If those are combined, those are the atoms of the same element, they are combined to form the molecule of hydrogen. But if we take the example of carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, here two atoms are there, and carbon is the different element and oxygen is different element, and those are combined to form the carbon monoxide. So let's study about them. Molecule of the element. The molecule of element are constituted by the same types of the atoms. The molecule of many elements such as argon, helium, etc. made up of only one type of element. But it is not the case of most of the metals, non-metals. For example, the molecule of oxygen consists of the atoms of the oxygen, that is two atoms of oxygen combined to form the molecule of oxygen. Hence it is known as diatomic molecules, O2. If three atoms of oxygen are united to form one molecule instead of the two atoms, usually we get ozone. So molecule of the atom is consist of the molecules known as the atomicity. So number of the atom consisting of the element of the molecule is known as its atomicity. So what is described here is what is atomicity. So atom of the same element and combine together to form the molecules. If the atom, that is helium, if we take the example of helium molecule consists of only one atom of helium, so its atomicity is 1. If I take the example of oxygen, it is consist of two atoms of oxygen, that is O2. So that's its atomicity is 2 because two atoms of oxygen is combined together to form one molecule of oxygen. So its atomicity is 2. If I take the example of ozone, it is composed of 3 atoms of oxygen, that is O3. So which is present in the atmosphere, protect us from the ultraviolet ray of sun. So ozone its atomicity is 3 because here 3 atoms of oxygen is combined to form the ozone. So it's all about the atomicity. Metal and some other element such as the carbon do not have the simple structure but consist of large number of indefinite number of atoms and bonded together. Okay, so metal and other elements such as carbon are indefinite number of atoms are bonded together, so those are not simple structure. Okay, so there is the atomicity of different element given. So we already learned about the argon, helium, those are monatomic element. Oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine, those are diatomic element. Phosphorus, sulfur, phosphorus is tetraatomic and sulfur is polyatomic. So we have to remember the different atomic numbers of the different element in the molecular form. Those are also called as its atomicity. So let's learn about the molecules of compound. Here the molecule of element, that is similar types of atom combined together to form the molecule of element. So here is the molecule of compound. Suppose already discussed about carbon monoxide. Water is also an example of molecule of compound, that is different element, that is hydrogen and oxygen is combined together to form the one molecule of water. Okay, so let's learn. So atom of different element join together in a definite proportion to form molecule of the compound. Okay, atom of different elements. Suppose I take the example of water. Water, it is composed of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Its proportion is always same, so it have to be joined in a definite proportion to form the molecule of water. Okay, so this is all about the molecules of compound. Few examples are given here, so let's study about them. Here is the example of water. We already discussed it is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, and the ratio by mass is 1:8. That is one atom of mass of the hydrogen is 1. That is mass of hydrogen is 1 U or atomic mass unit, and that of oxygen is 16. Okay. So here is 2 atom of hydrogen is there. So 2 atom, for 2 atom we have to take 2, and for 1 atom of oxygen we have to take 1. Okay, here is 2 atom of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. So 2 atom of hydrogen is there and 1 atom of oxygen is there. For 2 atom of hydrogen we take the mass 2, and for 1 atom of oxygen, that is 16 AMU. If you cancel it with 2, that is 2 1 2, 2 8 16. So its weight by mass is, ratio by mass is 1:8. So second is the case of ammonia, that is composed of nitrogen and hydrogen. NH3 composed of nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay, 1 atom of nitrogen and 3 atom of hydrogen combined together to form ammonia. Similar in the case of carbon dioxide, it is composed of 1 atom of carbon and 2 atom of oxygen. Okay, what is an ion? Compound composed of the metals and non-metal contain charge species. The charge species are known as ions. An ion is a charged particle that can be negatively or positively charged. The negatively charged ion is called anion, and positively charged called cations. For example, sodium chloride is composed of NaCl. It consists of the charged particles, that is positively charged, that is sodium Na+, and negatively charged particle chlorine Cl-. Ion may consist of the single charged atoms or group of atoms, that is net charge on them. The group of atoms carrying the charge is known as polyatomic ion. We shall learn about in the higher class, that is in the chapter 4. So what I describe here is that the atom composed of the metal and non-metal are contain charge species. Suppose I take the example of NaCl. It is composed of sodium atom, that is sodium ion, that is Na+, and chlorine ion, that is Cl-. Those two are combined to form NaCl. So those two have positively ion and negatively charged ion. So positively ion called are as a cation because it has positively ion, and negatively ion is are called anions. Okay, so ions may consist of the charge of the single ion or group of ion. Suppose I take off example of ammonium. Ammonium is NH4+. Okay, the plus represent here is for group of atoms, that is group of nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay, so it is a group of ion for the group of atoms. But if I take the example of Na+, it is consist of ion of single atom, that is for sodium. Okay, it might be single or for group of atoms. When it represent for group of atom, it will called as polyatomic ion, and it is monoatomic ion. Okay, writing chemical formula. The chemical formula of a compound is the symbolic representation of its composition. The chemical formula of different compound can be written easily. For this, we have to learn the symbols and combining capacity of element. So, what is combining capacity of element? We already learned about the different symbols. Suppose hydrogen is represented by H, calcium is represented by Ca. So we have to learn about the combining capacity, that is the valency of element, different element. So what is the valency of element? The combining capacity of an element is known as its valency. The valency can be used to find out how many atoms of an element will combine with the atoms of different element to form the chemical compound. The valency of an atom of an element can be thought as the hand of the arm of an atom. So valency of the sum of the common ion are given in the table. So you have to remember all this because all those are basics. So if you not learn about all this, it will not possible for you to form the different compound. Okay. So by remembering all these symbols with their ions and their symbols, and we have to follow some principle, some rules how to form compound. Okay, we will learn about this. So sodium is represented by Na plus, potassium K plus, silver Ag plus, copper Cu plus, magnesium Mg2 plus, calcium Ca2 plus, zinc Zn2 plus. So all these are the different elements. Okay, those are the different ions. These are the non-metallic element: hydrogen, hydride, chloride, bromide, iodide, oxide, sulfide. You have to remember all this with their symbols. Okay, polyatomic ions such as ammonium, NH4 plus. Okay, hydroxide OH minus, nitrate NO3 minus, hydrogen carbonate HCO3 minus, carbonate CO3 2 minus, sulfite SO3 2 minus, sulfate SO4 2 minus. So we have to keep in mind that some student as well as teacher also teach the student that we can write the ions like this. Suppose we take the example of phosphate PO4 3 minus is the correct way, but some teacher teach that we can write like this: PO4 3 minus or minus 3. So this is not the correct way. You have to write only like this: PO4 3 minus, not PO4 minus 3. This will wrong. Okay, so you have to first write the number of charge, then you have to write the charge, that is 3 minus. 3 minus means it has PO4 has valency, that is 3 minus. So you can write 3 minus like this: 3 minus. Okay, so you have to remember all this. So now here is the rules that have to be followed while writing the chemicals formula as follow. So the valency or the charge of an ion must be balanced. Okay, so we have to balance the charge and valence. Suppose we take the example of carbon chloride. Carbon has valency 4 and chloride has a valency 1. So you have to balance it. Okay, so you have to crisscross like this. So the compound form here will be CCl4. C, the valence of chlorine will come to the subscript of carbon, and valence of carbon will come to the subscript of chlorine, that is CCl4. As one is here, it is not written, it is actually neglected. Okay, so we should not write like C1 CCl2 Cl4. So you have to write that CCl4. CCl4 means carbon chloride, carbon tetrachloride, carbon chloride. Okay, carbon tetrachloride. So next is, when the compound consists of the metal and non-metal, the name of the symbols of the metals are written first, and the symbols of the, suppose for the examples of the calcium oxide composed of calcium and oxide O2, calcium Ca2 plus, oxide O2 minus. So you have to crisscross like this. So always represent the positive, that is the metals are always represented first, and then the non-metal, that is calcium oxide, that is Ca2O2. Okay, Ca2O2, the valence of the ion, that is the negative anion is come to the calcium, subscript of calcium, and that of calcium is come to the subscript of oxygen. But here both are 2, so we don't need to write the 2 in both the cases. This will be cancelled, so we have to write this like CaO means calcium oxide. Okay, so here are the different example given. that is the sodium chloride. Sodium chloride means, so here the sodium is the metal and chloride is non-metal. Iron sulfide, iron is metal and sulfide is non-metal. Copper oxide example. So here oxygen, chlorine, sulfur are non-metal, where written the right side. Okay, whereas calcium, oxygen, sodium, iron and copper are metal, which are written on the left. In a compound form with the polyatomic ion, the ion is enclosed in a bracket. Before writing the number, indicate the ratio. Okay, in the case the number of the polyatomic ion is 1 and the bracket is not required. Okay, for example NaOH. Here what he described it, if I take the example of NaOH composed of Na plus OH minus. So the minus represent here is both for oxygen and hydrogen. So we have to put the bracket here to form the, while forming the compound, not here, while forming the compound, that will be the NaOH. Its valence will come to the subscript and its valence will come to subscript. It will be like Na1 OH1, but 1 is not written, so you have to remember. So if the number is more than 1, we have to put a bracket here, but here is the 1 is the charge is 1, so we don't need to write like this, we have to like this, write like this NaOH. Okay, so if I take the example of the other case when there is a polyatomic ions, here is given. So here is the given the formula, that is, if I take the sodium nitrate composed of sodium Na plus, nitrate is NO3 minus. Okay, so if I crisscross these two ions, that it will form NaNO3. Okay, as the charge is 1, we don't need to put a bracket here. Okay, but in case of second one, that is the calcium hydroxide composed of calcium Ca2 plus hydroxide OH minus. Okay, here hydride is composed of hydrogen and oxygen. So if we crisscross this, then the compound will form is calcium CaOH2. Not like this, we have to put the bracket because the oxide composed of hydrogen and oxygen and the number here is 2, so you have to put the bracket here. Okay, this is the correct way. That is what he described in the last law. Okay, so formula of the simple compound. The simplest compound, whose is made up of two different elements, are called binary compound. The valency of some of the ion given in the table, so you have to use those to write the compound. While writing the chemical formula for the compound, the writing constituent element with their valency are shown below. So we already discussed about how to write the chemical formula. We have to write the symbols of the element and the valency below them. Then we have to crisscross the valency and the compound form will just like this. Suppose in case of hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen is written and its valence is 1, sulfide is written and its valence is 2. So if we crisscross this valency, the compound form will be H2S, because its valence will come to its subscript and its valence will come to its subscript. Okay, so you can write like this also. Suppose you take the example of hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen H1 plus and sulfide S2 minus. So if you cross like this, then it will form H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide. So here is given us numerous element with their valency and how the compound is formed. So you have to remember all these ions, then you have to follow these rules to form the compound. Okay, so you can practice as much as possible. Just like the mathematics, you have to practice as much as possible, then you will become sure about the compound and you don't need to fear about this, because it is not that hard, you can do it. Okay, just like if we don't know how to add, how to subtract, we can't do mathematics. If we don't learn the alphabet, okay, we can't form the word. Just like that, if we don't learn the symbols, the different ions and the rules, we can't do those compound. Okay, to form those compound. So this is all about today class. So today in the next class we will discuss about the molecular mass and mole concept. Okay, so thanks for watching. Keep share it with your friend. Keep learning and stay blessed.